Hello there, and welcome to episode 15 of the Dudes Being Guys Sports Podcast.
Just guys being dudes.
My name is Marco Yerkovich, and joining me, as always, is Easton Nelson.
What's up, guys?
Also joining us this week is Spencer Allgood.
It is great to be back.
All right, on today's episode, we'll be discussing turmoil in the Jaguars and Packers organizations, the newest playoff rankings, Mack Brown's new gig, our Heisman finalists, and much more.
Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below.
Now let's get the episode rolling.
All right, first up, we have the Vikings beating the Packers 24-17 on Sunday Night Football, which basically eliminated the Packers from the playoffs. So, will Mike McCarthy be coaching next season in Green Bay?
I hope not. I mean, they haven't had much success in the past 3 or 4 years, and I think they just need a culture change as an organization, to be honest. Just wipe it all out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They're going to have to pick between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy by the end of this year because they'll be missing back-to-back playoffs, the playoffs in back-to-back seasons for the first time in over 30 years. So there has to be some kind of change, for the organization.
I mean, they've already established that Aaron Rodgers is their guy, and he's the one who's pretty much running the organization for them. And, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has pretty much made it clear that he doesn't want to be playing for Mike McCarthy. So I think after this year, unless some freak accident happens and they somehow sneak in, he'll be gone.
Yeah, they have a 3% chance to make the playoffs right now.
There's still a chance.
They're not. It's not good. It's really not good. But honestly, yeah. So what we're all kind of saying here is it's either Mike McCarthy or Aaron Rodgers, and it's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and they just signed him to that big extension.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they can keep him for the rest of his career, but I mean, they need to build around Aaron Rodgers because he has no weapons to throw to except for really Jimmy Graham and Devontae Adams, and his line's gotten worse throughout the years, and just overall their defense too is not good.
Yeah, it's strange. I think a lot of the reason people are starting to now sour on Mike McCarthy, it's not necessarily these past 2 seasons, but it's kind of it's his career in Green Bay as a whole, the fact that he has Aaron Rodgers and that they only have won a single Super Bowl, and I think that's starting to get into a lot of people's minds that Aaron Rodgers, who a lot of people see as one of the best quarterbacks of all time, has only got 1 Super Bowl to this point.
And I mean, by signing him to a contract that has $100 million guaranteed over the next 4 years, you're pretty much saying he's the guy that you want there to stay for at least the next near future. And I think that money and like what he means to the organization is going to trump anything that McCarthy means.
Yeah, so kind of the clear picture here. Mike McCarthy likely out in Green Bay. At least that's what we think. Aaron Rodgers going to stay for the long haul, or so a lot of Packers fans hope. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who lost their 7th straight game on Sunday to Buffalo. So, I mean, let's just get right to the big issue for Jacksonville. What should they do about Blake Bortles?
Get rid of him. Whatever it is, trade him, cut him. I mean, he had 1 mediocre season, and he got a huge contract for, I mean, I saw a stat the other day. He has like the most interceptions with like a few weeks. I can't remember the exact stat, but
it's a lot of interceptions.
It's a lot of interceptions, and it's something that you don't want as your starting quarterback. I mean, they benched him, and Cody Kessler. I mean, do you really want Cody Kessler?
They fired their OC, and when you see coordinators start to go, you start to see the organization is crumbling. They don't want to get rid of the head coach because they don't want to disrupt the culture, but they need to do something. So firing the offensive coordinator was them sending some type of a message, and benching Blake Bortles is something as well that they're trying to send a message for.
I don't really see the point in benching him, if I'm going to be honest. Kessler, a joke. Would you rather have him? Would you rather have Nathan Peterman? It doesn't matter. You're not going to win a game if any of them are on the field. And if you look at the stats from this year to last year, Bortles' QBR is only like 2.5 points lower this year than it was last year. He's putting up very similar numbers, but
why not play Tanner Lee?
Honestly, Jacksonville with how good their defense is, or maybe their defense is starting to be the problem, but I for sure think it's more the offense. They have a solid run game and a great defense. They just need a game manager at quarterback. They don't need a guy who's making all the risky throws that Blake Bortles is doing. Like, just control the game. Short, quick passes. Nothing crazy.
As someone who owns the Jacksonville defense on their fantasy team, I would it is very easy for me to point out that the defense is, in fact, a very large problem,
Okay.
as they are consistently getting me less than 5 to negative points every single week.
I think it's because they're out there so much too. Is what makes that.
That could be a problem because Jacksonville has the most turnovers in the league, and they simply cannot score, and they have the second most 3-and-outs in the league. So obviously that's going to lead to the defense being worn out. I don't necessarily think that's an excuse for what should be one of the best defenses in the league, but I think it's a contributing factor to their, them getting worse throughout the season.
By no means is Bortles an elite quarterback, but by signing him like a fairly good offer over the offseason and then benching him the second things start to go south, you're not going to make anyone want to come play for you because the second things stop going their way, they feel like they're just going to get benched. And plus, he's not doing terrible. He just has no one to help him out.
I don't think things have just been going south. First of all, I think this extension was probably one of the dumbest executive decisions that could have ever been made.
Contracts in the NFL right now.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it's awful. He's riding the wave of an AFC championship appearance that he rode his defense to.
Yeah, and he had a lot of. I mean, I'll give him credit. He had a lot more help last year than he did this year. But I mean, I don't think that's an excuse.
He's terrible. I mean, honestly, they've lost 7 straight, so clearly he's not the answer. But I don't think he's tradable. We said either last week or a couple of weeks ago, we said that Carmelo was untradeable. Blake Bortles is untradeable. What is it, like $72 million guaranteed over 4 years for that talent? Who is going to take that? There's not a single team. Is there a single team in the league?
Bills, maybe. Well, I guess they have Josh Allen back now, so never
Yeah.
mind.
And the
So
Bills just rolled him.
Yeah.
Why would they
that's
want
right,
to trade?
right.
Yeah, absolutely not. So the Jaguars have really backed themselves into a corner. But so this is all kind of symptomatic of the fact that Jacksonville is just back to how they've been forever. So was this Saxonville, whatever you want to call them, this team from last year that played the Patriots close in the AFC Championship game, were they a one-year wonder?
I mean, I think so, especially with the defense, because Jalen Ramsey has made it clear that he's leaving this year, and I mean, who knows who all is going to follow him? I don't know all the contract situations with their defense, but I mean, it's not looking good for them for the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm not sure if they're a one-year wonder because a lot of the same talent is still there, and so is the coaching. So maybe it's just they had the first place schedule, so the schedule was harder. But I really don't know what's going on with them.
I think you can compare the Jaguars last year to Loyola in the the NCAA tournament for basketball last year. They made a great run. They looked really good, and this year they're nobodies.
The reality has set back.
The reality
in
has
of
set
who
back
they
in.
are.
Jacksonville will
Gulf
never
Coast.
maintain success. I mean, who wants to play there?
No one. What? Put him in London.
Put him in line.
Okay, with that, yeah, you know what? Let's just move on. Put him in London. So let's move on to the dude of the week. This week, our dude is Golden State small forward Kevin Durant, who averaged 41.6 points per game, 9.3 rebounds per game, and 7.6 assists per game, and led the Warriors to a 3-0 record. So your thoughts on Kevin Durant
still a
and his
snake.
performance?
He's still a snake.
Call him whatever you want. The man can get his buckets, and that has been proven time and time again.
Yes, I'll give him that. I mean, he's the best scorer in the NBA right now, and I mean, averaging 41 points over the course of how many games was this? Just
Three games.
3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. The Warriors were struggling for a little bit without Curry, and I mean, get 3 wins with Kevin Durant scoring that many points, you're gonna win.
Well, yeah, and you have to think, when you have as much talent as Golden State has, you're not as sharp. And, we see that. We talk about the regular season fatigue, but also what sets in is probably a lack of alpha mentality from these what should all be star players. I mean, Clay, Steph, and Kevin would be the best player on at least half the teams in the league if they were alone, right? So you kind of get to this fact that now Kevin has taken about 3 or 4 games, and now this week we finally saw him back to his alpha dog form, and he is one of the most special players in the league.
The problem with the Warriors is the really only alpha mentality on that team is Draymond Green, and he's the worst of the 4. And
He shouldn't be an all-star.
he should not be. Neither should Al Horford, but you see that going down.
Well, you know what? I don't like the West and the East thing, but they have to do that because the schedules are unbalanced. But we'll get to that another day. Just give us
You have no
everyone
argument
in the
for it.
same league. It's a league 30 teams, 16 playoff spots. Why do we need West and East? This league is dumb.
Do you think they'll ever change it?
They should.
I hope they do, but
They really
I
should.
don't know if that'll happen.
I mean, listen, Major League Baseball evolved before the 21st century. American League teams and National League teams never played each other. They never play. There was no interleague play. But eventually they decided that's stupid. Let's have everyone play, and that's a step closer to a fully integrated league. But the NBA, they need to work to that because as we saw over the past few years, that LeBron was in the East, it was extremely unbalanced. And now, I don't know if it's a swing the other way, but it's balancing itself out, but it still is disproportionate to where the talent is in the league.
I think that it would make it much more interesting if it was just the top 16, but I don't see Adam Silver changing that anytime soon just for tradition's sake. It's just kind of a huge jump to make to go from the way things have always been done to something that hasn't ever been done in the sport or any of the power sports.
Well, so if we leave it that way, we're going to see Kevin Durant and the Warriors only play the Celtics, the Sixers, the Raptors twice a year. I mean, I guess we'll live with that. So let's move on to lightning round news. First up, we have Georgia Tech head coach Paul Johnson. He's retiring after a 7-5 campaign. Johnson went 82-59 in 11 seasons with the Yellow Jackets, including 4 ACC championship appearances. The Philadelphia 76ers guard Markelle Fultz is being evaluated for his shoulder injury that he's had for about a year and a half now, and he could potentially be on the trading block. The Houston Texans, led by second-year quarterback Deshaun Watson, have won 8 straight games after starting the season 0-3. If they make the playoffs, they will be the first team in NFL history to make the playoffs after starting the season 0-3. Lastly, with their win against Duke in the Maui Invitational Championship, the Gonzaga Bulldogs are the new number 1 team in the country, jumping over number 2 Kansas in the process. Guys, anything from the lightning round that you'd like to discuss?
There has never been a case in the NFL of a team starting 0-3 winning their next 8 games and them not winning the Super Bowl. It has never happened.
Because that has never happened before, Spencer.
But at the same time,
So Texans are going to win the Super Bowl?
by extension of that, they
That's
have...
going to be a tough
Every time they
I don't
go on
know.
the field, they have a chance to win. Deshaun Watson's finally playing like the way that everyone was hoping he would. I think that they've got playmakers pretty much everywhere on the field. Their defense is looking good. They've got a great front four with Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt. I think they're looking like a real tough squad to beat on any given night.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're a good team. And Deshaun, he gives, they were a great team with all those, that carousel of quarterbacks they've had for the past 5 or
Matt
6 years in the J.J. Watt era and in the Bill O'Brien era. But yeah, Deshaun just kind of elevates this team to now, instead of a team that's like, okay, I guess if they get the wild card, they'll be, they'll play in it, but they're out, right? They're a tough out now, They are a team that you do not want to end up playing in the playoffs.
Yeah, they could be an underdog. I mean, I'd still choose the Saints and, Chiefs and Patriots to all beat them, but that they can be an underdog, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you guys' thoughts on Gonzaga jumping Kansas? I think it was deserved. I mean, you beat Duke. I mean,
And they looked dominant while they did it. Like, they looked like a completely well-rounded team, and it kind of just proved that there is a learning curve to this level of play, that just because Duke might have the best players, they still need to mature a little bit on the court. And Gonzaga, with the best Japanese basketball player in the world coming out here, showing them up, showing the youngins that they don't have it all going on right from the get-go.
Yeah, Rui Hachimura, he is awesome for Gonzaga. He's probably going to end up being a lottery pick when it's all said and done, if not, in the top 10.
I think the mock draft had him at like 9 or 10.
Yeah, he's a really good player. He played minutes sparingly freshman year, then he was the 6th man last year. Now he's looking to be the star of a team that is number 1 in the country. And Gonzaga doesn't necessarily play a really tough schedule in the WCC, but they have St. Mary's twice, who's always a tough team occasionally in the top 25. But Gonzaga could go undefeated.
I mean, whenever you can beat Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, and Cameron Reddish, even Trey Jones, that looks pretty good on your resume.
It seems like every single year Gonzaga is pretty much a lot a lock for a top 3 seed in the tournament no matter what happens. Every year they come out with a really good seed and then they go fairly deep into the tournament.
Yeah, great program built there by Mark Few. He's been there for now 18 or 19 seasons, and he's just got a great team around him this year that is very veteran laden. All right, Spencer, let's move on to the fact of the week.
So the super cool fact of the week, Kent State just offered their recruit Callan Bennett. He becomes the first player with autism to ever receive a D1 basketball scholarship. And it's pretty cool because just from hearing him talk, you would have no idea that he suffered from autism, but it turns out that it was so severe when he was a kid that he didn't even speak his first words till he was 7. And now he's playing basketball at one of the highest levels possible to achieve and role model for a condition that's rising in occurrence across the world.
I think it's pretty amazing that he's going to be a D1 basketball player. I mean, you talk about that's the highest level of basketball in the world for that age bracket of 18 to 22-year-olds, and it's amazing that he's that good.
Yeah, I mean, I respect Kent State for giving him a chance to play D1 basketball. I mean, obviously he's pretty good, and I mean, I hope he takes advantage of it.
Yeah,
and
so
if he
we'll
can
see
get
how
a
he
few
does.
buckets here, maybe I can see an ESPY in his future if he can get a few buckets here for Kent State.
You never know. Anything is possible. All right. So talking about anything is possible, let's talk about the college football playoff rankings, where Oklahoma is 5th, Ohio State is 6th. So should Oklahoma be ranked ahead of Ohio State? Did the committee get this one right, Spencer?
Yes, Ohio State, I do not believe the hype. I think they had one good day while Michigan had an off day. Watching Ohio State over the course of the season, they have not impressed me that much. Horrible loss to Purdue, should have lost to Maryland, very well could have lost to Nebraska. They have some of the best talent in the country, and obviously that's why they're as high as they are. But overall, I don't think they deserve to be in the top 4 when it comes to it.
I totally agree with you. Just their current position, I think they did it perfectly. They slid up Georgia to 4, Oklahoma to 5, Ohio State to 6, and that's totally what they should have done. They can reward Michigan for this tremendous win, probably one of the best wins on any resume in the country. However, as you said, the rest of their season, you have to look at the full body work. It just doesn't amount to a playoff spot.
Yeah, like I said, Ohio State is the luckiest team in all of college football this season. I mean, they could have easily lost 4 or 5 games this year, and they probably wouldn't even been ranked.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Anything could have happened, and honestly, Ohio State, as you saw, I think they got lucky. You're really right about that. So, moving on, let's talk about some scenarios here for the playoffs. So just a theoretical here. If Georgia beats Alabama, who is in between Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State?
I think if Georgia beats Alabama, it's going to be the same 4 that are at the top right now. I don't think there's any way the committee keeps Alabama out even if they lose.
Yeah, I agree.
completely agree.
Well, it's not even just like they're keeping Alabama in. Alabama deserves to be in. If it's a close, possession or 2 loss to what'll end up being the 3rd best team in the country, 3rd ranked team, they deserve to be in. Just because the loss happens in their 13th game and not their first game, they shouldn't be punished more for it.
Yeah, I mean, if Alabama gets blown out by Georgia, I could maybe see it, but that's not going to happen.
Okay, so one last hypothetical here. So if Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State all lose, can UCF get in?
I don't think there's any way they give it to him, not with Mackenzie Milton out, and I don't even think it would happen if he was healthy, to be honest. I just think the committee would rather have not a big name school necessarily, but like a Power 5 school in there than small conference, even though they have the record they have. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right now, as it currently is right now, without Mackenzie Milton, they have no chance. They're already still ranked behind 2-loss Michigan. So that they're 8th right now, which is the highest ever for a Group of 5 team, but it's not where they want to be or where they think they should be. But I think they're probably ranked correctly. I think if they have Mackenzie Milton, they're probably ranked above Michigan. And then if this scenario would play out, they wouldn't be the front runner, but they would be in that. They would be right in that discussion with Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama. I don't think that they would be the 4th team, but they would at least be in the discussion.
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. There's not any chance, especially with Mackenzie Milton now. I mean, I'd really like it to happen because I like this UCF team, but they haven't played anybody good. They haven't proven that they can beat one of the top tier teams, and yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's unfortunate because if they had maybe it's because it's luck of the draw. People are talking about their non-conference schedule, but this is planned 5 or 6 years in advance. And so it's hard to bag on them because they did have North Carolina scheduled and that got canceled, and it all depends. Who if North Carolina is good or not that year, or say USF had gone undefeated and they had a end of the season ranked clash that could have helped their resume, but the cards did not fall in UCF's favor. The injury didn't help them, and they also didn't play as good as they needed to at times. So yeah, no chance for them getting in. So now, speaking of North Carolina, though, Mack Brown is now the head coach of North Carolina. He went back there. He coached there in the 90s before he got the job at Texas. So was this a wise decision for Mack Brown?
For him, yeah. I mean, he's been out of the game for a little while, not really been in coaching. But for a program like North Carolina, where they've never really been a football powerhouse, to get a name like that to bring some eyes to the program from potential recruits, I think it's pretty beneficial to them.
Yeah, I mean, I really like I can't say his name, Mack Brown, because obviously I used to be a Texas fan. But I mean, it can't hurt him. I mean, he's a really good coach. He had some success at Texas, and they need to build their football program up.
Yeah, I don't think this was a mistake. He was a good coach in the past. He led his team to 3 national championship games. He clearly has the right stuff, and I don't think just because he spent nearly a decade out of the game, I don't think you lose the stuff if you got it. Nearly
really
a
that
decade
long?
now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It doesn't
Right?
seem that
2011?
long.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but speaking of a guy who's not been out of the game as long as Mack Brown, but who's come back into coaching after we thought he'd go into retirement, Les Miles, who just got the Kansas job about a week or so ago. Do you think Mack Brown's decision was influenced by Miles going back to Kansas?
Probably not. I think he had an opportunity and he took it, and that's pretty much all that it boils down to, I feel like.
Yeah, I have to think that there's a little bit more correlation. Even if I'm just reaching here, it just feels like this came so out of the blue. We knew North Carolina was going to get rid of Larry Fedora because they've just been awful the past 2 years after, 3 years ago making it to the ACC championship game against Clemson, but they've just played so poorly. But Mack Brown, he's been a studio analyst forever. He just seemed like he was settling into becoming a broadcaster and just seemed very happy in retirement. This seems so out of the blue,
Yeah, I mean, they're two different people, so you can't really tell what they think. And I mean, it could have some influence because Les Miles is obviously going to Kansas to build up their football program, and then Mack Brown's going to try and do the same at North Carolina. But it boils down to the point, like you said. I can't remember what he said, but
he just wants to be back, I think, coaching football. I think some guys really miss that. But Mack Brown back at North Carolina, so the ACC has a down year, just probably one of the worst years a Power 5 team has had in the playoff era. This is a huge pickup for the ACC as a conference. All right, so let's move on to our final topic of the day. It's the final Heisman Watch. It's our last list before the actual nominees come out. So we're just each going to list the between the 3 and 5 players we think will be the nominees. Easton, let's start with you.
Well, should we start at number 3? Or I mean, I only have 3.
It's just list them. It really doesn't matter.
Number 1, I have Kyler Murray. At number 2, I have Tua Tagovailoa and Dwayne Haskins at number 3.
Oh, really? You have Dwayne Haskins in there as a nominee. So you only have 3 guys going to New York.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
that's what it's been in the past few years.
I think it's mostly a quarterback race at this point. The Wisconsin running back.
Jonathan Taylor had a chance, but Wisconsin going 7-5. Even though he's still been just as dominant, if not more, as he was last year, he doesn't have a chance with them going 7-5. Spencer, who's on your list?
I have the same top 3 as our man Easton over there. Got Kyler beating out Tua right now, and then Tua, and then Haskins after him. But I also want to throw in a few little less talked about names. Gardner Minshew, the Washington State quarterback, he's been having himself a season. And then also someone who's just absolutely electrifying, Hollywood Brown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going with
I don't
Marquise
think there's
Brown?
any chance of him making it to New York, but he's someone who hasn't got nearly enough been talked about this year. He's just been on fire every single Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he comes back next year healthy and plays well, I think he might get a nod just for his career as a whole, as what he's done. But yeah, I think this is, as Easton said, it's kind of a quarterback award, which is kind of what I'm seeing in my list. So I have Kyler Murray first as well. Then second, I have Tua Tagovailoa. Third, I actually have Will Grier, and then fourth, I have Gardner Minshew. I don't have Dwayne Haskins. I know he's probably going to end up in New York, but I just don't. Just the way the team and he has played, they haven't played well in games when they've needed to. You know, I think, unfortunately, everyone's just going to go into this thinking about the Michigan game, and they're not really going to look at his full body of work.
Because it was recent.
Yeah. But I think Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa definitely lead the field by a lot.
I don't think anyone after the top two matters, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it
I don't
really
think anyone's
doesn't.
paying any attention.
I mean, they're getting a nomination at least. You know,
I'm
they can
surprised you
put
don't
that
have
in their
Tua at
name.
number one. I figured you would.
I
You did last time.
I did 2 weeks ago, and then I flipped it last week. The sheer amount of numbers Kyler Murray is putting up, it's something we've never seen before. The offense, and this isn't a discredit to Baker Mayfield, but this is more just a praise of Kyler Murray. The offense is just even better than it was last year. It's amazing. Even though they lost, a tight end to the second round and offensive tackle to the first round, they still just kept getting better, which is so amazing. But I think Kyler Murray will probably win it.
Yeah, I hope so, because I really like watching him. And like I said before, I hope he goes and chooses the football route instead of the baseball route.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot more fun to
Yeah.
watch. Well, another factor I think that is into this, Tua Tagovailoa is only a sophomore. He can't go to the NFL. He has to play at least one more year in college. I think because Kyler Murray, this is his last year in college, I think they're going to give it to him because they know Tua is going to be a front runner next year anyway.
And for me, it's the Heisman's pretty much like the MVP of college football. And if Tua wasn't the quarterback for Alabama, they'd still be undefeated. But if Kyler Murray wasn't the quarterback at Oklahoma, they'd probably have 3 or 4 more losses.
Yeah, I see that.
It's kind of like the LeBron argument last year. If LeBron wasn't on the Cavs, they'd be terrible. And a lot of people thought he was going to be on
And they are
them.
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trash. Yeah. Well, so those are our Heisman, our final Heisman lists. We'll see who is right. So the Heisman presentation is December 3rd, 7 o'clock on ESPN. We'll see who wins the Heisman. We all kind of think Kyler Murray, but definitely Tua is a formidable runner-up. So that is it for episode 15 of the Dudes Being Guys Sports podcast. Alongside Spencer Allgood and Easton Nelson, my name is Marco Yerkovich. Remember to click that like button and subscribe, and we will see you guys next week.